the grainy video playing on my screen. A man stood next to an old, moss-covered well, his face pale and nervous. He tossed a coin in, the metal glinting faintly before disappearing into the darkness. He said he heard it whisper his name. I laughed, shaking my head. What a joke, I thought. But then, something caught my eye. The comments section was flooded. Hundreds of people swearing they'd experienced the same thing. I don't know what made me pause. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I was just tired and easily spooked. But as I scrolled through those comments, a shiver ran down my spine. They weren't just talking about hearing whispers. They were talking about names. Their names. In ghost stories, the laughter of children echoed faintly from outside, then stopped, swallowed by silence. I glanced at the window, my reflection staring back at me in the dark glass. The room felt heavier somehow, like the walls had moved closer. I had to see it for myself. I whispered, my voice barely audible over the fan's hum. The field stretched out before me, a sea of tall, dry grass swaying lazily in the evening breeze. The horizon burned orange as the sun sank lower, casting shadows that seemed too long to alive. My boots crunched against the brittle grass, each step echoing louder than it should have. Something about this place felt wrong. The air was thick, pressing against my chest, heavy and damp like I'd wandered into a crypt. There was no one around, just the chirping of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves. But it didn't feel empty. It felt crowded. I pushed forward, my eyes locking on the silhouette ahead. The well. When I first saw it, I almost laughed. Just a circle of old, moss-covered stones. Harmless, right? But as I got closer, my chest tightened. It wasn't just a well. It was something more. Something waiting. Watching. I stopped a few feet away, staring down at it. The darkness inside felt unnatural, like the light refused to go near it. My fingers tingled, and my legs felt rooted to the ground. I told myself it was just my imagination, that the tension in my shoulders and the prickling on my skin were just nerves. But then, I heard it. The sound was faint at first, like the wind brushing through the grass. But it grew louder. I didn't believe in ghosts taking shape, a soft murmur that seemed to slither through the air. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't words, not at first, just noise. But as I stood there, straining to listen, it became clearer. And I swear it said my name. My pulse thundered in my ears as I backed away, eyes fixed on the gaping void. The whispers grew softer, retreating ghost story into the well like they were daring me to come closer. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But even as I turned to leave, the faint murmur lingered in the back of my mind, calling me back. I stood at the edge of the well, the rough stones cool under my trembling hands. The darkness inside seemed alive, deeper than it had any right to be, leaving ghost stories. My flashlight's beam barely reached past the opening, swallowed up as if the shadows themselves were hungry. I don't know why I stayed. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around to leave. But I didn't. Instead, I reached for a pebble lying near my foot. Ghost stories. My fingers brushed against its cold surface as I picked it up, my breath hitching in the heavy air. I leaned forward, peering into the void. My heart thudded in my chest, each beat loud and uneven. I held the pebble between my fingers, hesitating for a moment before dropping it. It should have been just a sound. Just a simple plink of stone hitting water. But what I heard, it wasn't normal. The sound traveled downward, echoing faintly as it hit the water far below. But it didn't stop. The echo stretched unnaturally, the tone twisting, reverberating as if the well was breathing it back to me. I froze, every hair on my body standing on end. Then I heard it. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks, a faint murmur rising from the well. But as it grew louder, more distinct, I realized it was my name. A voice, distorted and hollow, floated up from the darkness.
Alex, Alex, why did you come?
My stomach twisted into knots, and I staggered back, nearly losing my balance. My heart raced, my palms slick with sweat. It knew my name. It knew my name. I stumbled further away, my eyes still locked on the well, as if it might come to life and grab me. The air shifted abruptly, cold and sharp. A gust of wind roared past, rattling the trees and sending the grass into a frenzy. I wanted to run. God, I wanted to run. But my legs wouldn't move. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my chest heavy. It wasn't just fear holding me there. It was something else. Something I couldn't explain. The whispers faded, leaving behind only the rustling leaves and the deafening thud of my pulse. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the well was still watching me, waiting for me to make the next move. Back home, I thought I'd feel safe. The familiar hum of my desk lamp, the soft creak of my chair, it should have grounded me. But the whispers followed me. It started in the shower. At first, I thought it was just the water, but no, it was there. My name, faint but distinct, blending with the sound of every drop that hit the tile. I'd close my eyes and I'd see the well's darkness. Even in my dreams, it wouldn't let go. The same words over and over, crawling under my skin. I sat at my desk, the light from my laptop glaring in the darkness. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had, like it was mocking the silence. My hands hovered over the keyboard, trembling as I typed, old hollow well legends. What I found wasn't comforting. The stories, they were all the same. People drawn to the well. They heard whispers, like I did, names. Their names. They saw things no one else believed. And then, they disappeared. My screen flickered with images, grainy photographs of the well, sketches of symbols carved into the stones, headlines from decades past. Local man missing near old hollow well. Mysterious disappearances plagued town. Each one made my stomach churn. Every story added another weight to my chest. Every detail made the air in the room feel heavier. My tea had gone cold. I hadn't even noticed. My fingers clicked through article after article, my eyes scanning faster, hoping to find an answer, a way to explain it all. But there wasn't one. I pulled out a notebook from the pile on my desk, flipping through pages filled with scribbled notes. Dates, locations, names. So many names. My pen trembled as I wrote, the faint whispers still clawing at the edges of my consciousness. Even in the quiet of my room, I couldn't escape them. They weren't loud, just persistent. Always there, just under the sound of my own breathing. It felt like the well was in the room with me, like it had followed me home. The ticking of the clock grew louder, the seconds dragging on. My laptop whirred softly, its fan barely drowning out the whispers. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes burning from staring at the screen for too long, because I couldn't stop. I had to know. I had to understand what the well wanted, why it wouldn't leave me alone. But the more I learned, the worse it got. Every story, every disappearance. It all felt inevitable, like it was building up to something. I glanced at the window, my reflection barely visible in the dark glass. For a moment, I thought I saw something move behind me, just out of the corner of my eye. My breath hitched, my heart racing. I told myself it wasn't real. It was just the stress, the lack of sleep. But deep down, I knew the truth. The well wasn't done with me. Not yet. The air was cold, sharper than it should have been for a night like this. My flashlight cut through the darkness, its beam bouncing with every step I took. The field was different now. Too quiet, too still. No rustling leaves, no chirping crickets. The sound of my boots crunching against the dirt, and the pounding of my heartbeat in my ears. I told myself I was going back for answers, to prove that it was all in my head. But that wasn't the truth. The truth. I just wanted it to stop. The whispers, the dreams. The feeling that something was always watching me. It had taken over my life, pulling me here, step by step. The beam of my flashlight flickered as the well came into view, standing like a shadow against the faint starlight. The stones gleamed faintly, slick with dew or something else. I didn't want to think about it. There it was. The same circle of stones. The same impossible darkness inside. It felt alive, like it had been waiting for me all along. I stepped closer, my legs shaky and unwilling, but I couldn't stop. My free hand gripped the edge of the well, the stone rough and damp under my fingertips. My flashlight wavered, its light dipping into the abyss, but it was swallowed whole, the shadows refusing to let anything escape. And then I heard it. This time it wasn't faint. The voice was clear, cutting through the silence like a blade.
Come closer, Alex. We've been waiting for you.
My breath hitched, my chest tightening. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. My hand trembled as I reached out, my fingers brushing the cold stone again, as if compelled by something far beyond my control. I couldn't stop myself. Every nerve screamed at me to run, but I didn't. I leaned in, closer to the well, closer to the voice. The wind picked up suddenly, a fierce gust that sent my flashlight clattering to the ground. My eyes snapped upward to the sky, where the stars above began to shift. At first, it looked like they were twinkling, but then they twisted, warping, spinning into shapes that didn't make sense. The world was bending, unraveling. The stars weren't stars anymore. They were eyes, staring down at me, into me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It was like I was being pulled in, not just by the well, but by the entire night. My fingers gripped the edge tighter, knuckles white, as my body leaned forward involuntarily. I wasn't alone. I knew that now. I never had been. The world went black. I don't remember closing my eyes, but suddenly there was nothing. No light, no sound, just the suffocating weight of silence. My chest rose and fell with heavy, panicked breaths, each one louder than the last. I don't remember climbing in. I don't even remember deciding to. One moment I was outside, staring into the well. The next I was here. The darkness lifted slowly, like a heavy curtain being drawn aside. The damp, glistening walls of the well surrounded me, close enough that I could feel the cold seeping into my skin. Water dripped from above, echoing in the confined space, each drop loud enough to make me flinch. The air was wet and heavy, sticking to my lungs like fog. My fingers brushed the slimy stone, and the realization hit me. This wasn't possible. The well was deep, far too deep for anyone to climb down. But somehow I was here. The whispers came again, louder now, no longer distant or faint. They pressed against me from all sides, overlapping voices that didn't make sense.
You belong to us now.
I spun around, my hands pressed against the damp walls, searching for something, anything. An exit, a way up, a way out. But there was nothing, just the stone and the endless, echoing voices. They weren't just in my head anymore. They were everywhere, surrounding me, filling the space like water rising in a sinking ship. A low hum began to vibrate through the stone, resonating in my chest, deep and bone, chilling. It wasn't just sound, it was something alive, something vast and ancient, moving through the walls, the air, the darkness. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded against my ribs, the sound mixing with the hum, the whispers, the distant echoes of laughter. It was all too much. The laughter was faint at first, soft and childlike, but it grew louder, sharper, twisting into something cruel and mocking. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My voice was swallowed by the well, by them. Whatever they were, whatever had brought me here, it wasn't going to let me go. The walls seemed to close in, pressing against me, forcing me deeper into the darkness. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me anymore, moving on their own, taking me further down a path I couldn't see. I wasn't in control. I wasn't even me anymore. I belonged to them now. The darkness had weight now, pressing against me, pulling at me from all directions. My limbs felt heavy, distant, like they weren't mine anymore. My breathing slowed, steady despite the chaos inside me. I thought the whispers would terrify me, that this moment, whatever it was, would break me, but it didn't. Instead, I felt calm, detached, like I was watching myself from somewhere far away. I looked up, the void above swirling faintly with the dim light of the stars. or what used to be stars. My eyes focused on something at the edge of the well, silhouetted against the faint glow of the sky. At first, I thought it was someone else, a shadow, a trick of the light. But as it leaned closer, I saw it clearly. The figure stood motionless, staring down into the abyss where I was. Its face, my face. Every detail was perfect. My eyes, my hair, even the faint scar above my eyebrow. It was me. No, it wasn't just me. It was something else. Something wearing me. The figure tilted its head, mimicking the way I did when I was deep in thought. Its expression was calm, almost serene. But its eyes, they weren't mine. They glowed faintly, reflecting the same twisted light of the sky. I should have been terrified. I should have screamed, or begged, or fought. But I didn't, because in that moment I understood. The figure stepped back from the edge, disappearing into the shadows. I didn't move, didn't try to call after it. It wasn't me anymore. Or maybe I was never me to begin with. The whispers surged one last time, the distorted voices blending into a single sound, a single thought, before falling silent.
You were always